We created a real Omnitrix. Yes, you heard me right, or at least a theory on how it would operate. Yeah, no aliens were harmed in the making of this concept, we think. To pull this off, we had to break down every single key principle of the Omnitrix, from DNA collection to the storage, the transformation, and of course the creation of the device itself, which was left in the hands of the one and only master craftsman, Stan Hanrahan. Oh, and before we dive into this sci-fi rabbit hole, hit the like button because Stan definitely deserves it. And if you're new here, smash the subscribe. You don't want to miss this level of nerd magic. Now let's talk DNA collection, because no Omnitrix is complete without the ability to swipe alien genetics like it's on an intergalactic heist. In the Ben 10 universe, this process is handled by mechanical mosquitoes that travel around the universe, collecting DNA samples and depositing them on planet Primus. Pretty cool, right? But in the real world, DNA sample collection is a little less sci-fi and a lot more gross. It can be collected in various ways: blood, saliva, teeth, bones. Let's just say if it's a part of your body, it's fair game. Now, crime investigations, they're a whole different level. Evidence like this is typically collected and carefully stored in paper bags to avoid contamination. And why paper bags? Because plastic traps moisture, which absolutely annihilates DNA. Sunlight and heat, pretty much the same deal. They destroy samples faster than you can say, hand me the tweezers. So basically, it has to be stored under room temperature. So while the Omnitrix's mosquito drones are pretty cool, in reality, we'd probably need a much more cautious and methodical approach unless we want the DNA to evaporate before we can use it. And let's be real, because not even space-aged tech can fix fried DNA. The next step in our pseudoscience experiment is to purify the DNA samples. Think of it like cleaning your room, but instead of shoving junk under your bed, you're removing enzymes, proteins, and other chemical freeloaders that have no business being there. The result? Pristine, ready-to-use DNA. But here's the kicker. This stuff has to be stored at Antarctic levels of cold, between -20 to -70 degrees Celsius. So unless you have a cryo freezer chilling in your garage, good luck keeping your samples intact. Now here's the juicy bit Azimuth conveniently left out of Ben 10 lore. After purification, you're not just done. No, you've got to replicate the DNA, and let me tell you, this is where things go from science project to mad scientist territory. To replicate DNA, you first have to separate the strands, prime the template strand, and assemble a shiny new strand. Sounds easy, right? It's not. This process is like trying to assemble IKEA furniture while the instructions are in another language and you're wearing oven mitts. So it's pretty challenging. But so far, we've collected, purified, and replicated DNA. Great. Now, we just have to make this DNA do its magic on a host, turning them into a whole new species. Totally doable, right? I started digging around to figure out how in the world we could pull this off without sounding like the plot of a bad sci-fi movie. Turns out nature already has a pretty solid blueprint, which is metamorphosis. You know, that incredible process where a caterpillar turns into a butterfly, a literal squishy worm transforming into nature's aerial showstopper? No big deal. If we were to copy this concept for the Omnitrix, we'd need to trigger a human metamorphosis. Picture this. The user is wrapped in a cocoon. Their entire body liquefies, and gets rebuilt with new DNA. And voila! Instant alien. It's basically nature's version of the reset button, but for humans pretty much. This of course is a total 180 from Azimuth's method, because Azimuth mutates the user's DNA to match the alien species, kinda like slipping into a cosmic costume. Our approach? Full-on forced transformation. We're talking about a total body overhaul. Sure, it's a different method, but hey, same goal, right? Turn the user into an alien. Besides, wouldn't you rather have a dramatic cocoon moment? Way cooler than just a quick mutation if you ask me. Genetic mutation like Azimuth's method could work, but let's be honest, humans and genetic mutations have never been BFFs. It's less cool superpowers and more horrific science experiments gone wrong. So with our approach, we're skipping the mutant lottery entirely and essentially remodeling the body from the ground up. Think Think of it as a total home renovation, except the house is you. Now, the most logical way to do this would be to deconstruct the body at an atomic level and then reassemble it using the new DNA strands. Sounds simple when you say it really fast, doesn't it? Unfortunately, reality is a bit of a buzzkill. While we do have tech like the molecular assemblers that can build molecules atom by atom, the deconstruction part, yeah, science isn't quite there yet. Oh, and let's not forget about the human consciousness. Just a minor detail. How do you rebuild someone's body and still keep their mind intact is a question that has been haunting sci-fi fans and actual scientists for years. But what if I told you that we had a cheat code? Remember the knockoff Omnitrix that we got from J Laser? It was basically a high-tech suit that made the wearer look like Heat Blast. Sure, it had all the flashy visuals and could fake a transformation mechanism, but underneath it all, it was just a suit with preloaded abilities. No DNA swapping, no real transformation, just a glorified cosplay with extra steps. Cool, but it's not as flexible as the original Omnitrix. So where does that leave us? Honestly, we're closer than ever to building a functioning Omnitrix. We figured out how to collect DNA, purify it, and store it, and even replicate it. Now all we need is a way to crack the transformation code. Of course, for that, human science is going to need a serious glow up. But enough of my theorizing. Let's hear from the master craftsman himself, Stan Hanrahan, on how to build the physical Omnitrix.
What does it take to build an Omnitrix? I've seen a lot of different creative ways that people make Omnitrixes. Omnitrix, however you say it. I've seen videos on YouTube of people making an Omnitrix out of the most creative things like cardboard, paper mache, toothpicks, bottle caps. I've even seen people make them out of EVA foam, but I think nowadays the best way to make them is to 3D print them. Now you can even do this with a basic beginner 3D printer that just prints in one color, but then you will have a lot of layer lines and you'll need to sand that print back, prime it so it has a good surface for the paint to bond with that also fills in all of the imperfections, and then you'll have to paint it yourself. But 3D printing has become so advanced that there's now printers that print in color, like the Bamboo ones that I use. Once I started using them, I never looked back. You literally do all of the painting in the slicing software, and then the automatic filament system, that thing on the machine, changes the color for you automatically while it's printing. So the whole thing comes out in color. These printers are also now so advanced that you barely even see the layer lines on the print. It just looks like one seamless piece of plastic. Compare this to some of the older models that I printed on my basic printers, like this 5YL Omnitrix prototype. You can clearly see the layer lines there. It's very noticeable. You're gonna have to sand all of those back. Compare that to this, which is printed on a Bamboo. It's night and day. Hold on, there's no light. Compare that to the Omnitrix that I recently printed on my Bamboo, and you can just see the difference there. It's night and day difference. This looks like it was finished and sanded and painted, but no, that's straight out of the 3D printer. That's how far 3D printing technology has come. But this PLA plastic that they're made of is not indestructible. I think to make it more close to something we see in this series, we need it to be stronger. Polycarbonate is widely regarded as the most strong 3D printing material for its high tensile strength and heat resistance. But even that is not indestructible. I've seen now that they literally can 3D print rockets out of metal. I think that is the realm of possibilities for someone looking to make the closest thing to an indestructible Omnitrix with today's technology, the thing that they 3D print rockets out of. But if you wanted to go even a step further and have this thing literally like stuck to your wrist, that's a little bit more challenging. But I don't think it's impossible. I look at it like a prosthesis. People have all kinds of prosthetic implants integrated into their bodies even today. Look at artificial limbs, pacemakers, even the Neuralink. I've even seen some crazy body modifiers that get things implanted into their skin like piercings. Like that guy Anthony Lafredo. I think if someone really wanted to, they could get threads inserted into their ulnar and radius bones, and then have screws in the actual Omnitrix prop that tap into those threads. I don't think that would come off. But that's basically my idea of how we can make something as close to a real life Omnitrix that is cartoon accurate as possible. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this video. I had so much fun. and I hope you guys enjoyed watching my thoughts. Oh my god.
Thanks for dropping by, Stan. And there you have it, folks. Turning the Omnitrix from cartoon fantasy to a real-life science project is a lot more complicated than it looks. But hey, it's still technically within the realm of possibility once we fill in some scientific gaps. But what do you think? Are we onto something here? Or are we just dreaming too big? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to check out the best Ben 10 episode of all time, click right here. We promise it's a must watch.